Hello, this video will be a continuation. I'll put some links in the description to the earlier pieces. Quadrivium, so we have arithmetic, geometry, music and astronomy. This is a ancient education system way of looking at the world. The quadrivium and the trivium, the 4 and the 3, together the 7 liberal arts, goes back at least 2,500 years BC. 500 BC, so 2,500 years old, at least in a recorded sense, but like it's so often the case, it goes back to this Greek period because we have such good records from that time. But these same elements we can trace them back through Babylon, the Indus, and to ancient Egypt. The earlier part, I'll put the link will be in the description. I went through this column and why these particular numbers, why they're so important across time, cross cultures, across religions, but also in architecture. Even in the electronics, screen resolution, radio frequencies, very important, very beautiful numbers, and there's some very good reasons why they would use these particular numbers. But the previous episode to this, I went through this column, or began that column. So we had a look at 9, then 18, 9 times 2 is 18. Again, just the dimensional aspects of this is interesting. So you see 3 to the second, to the third, to the fourth, 2 to the first, to the second, to the third, to the fourth, etc. But, okay, for instance, okay, we already went through 9. 9 is 3 squared. And we've been, okay, so 18. Same thing, like geometry, arithmetic, music, astronomy, quadrivium, and how often they appear. Okay, so 36. So 9 is 3 squared, 36 is 6 squared. It's just another little, if you're interested in these little number things. Now, it's also, might be worth noting. So, okay, I've already been through 36, and again, astronomy, the compass, just the instruments of measurement, and the quadrivium, how lovely they're linked. So, measurements of time, the compass is direction, but also of weight, and we've also had direction of length, space. The first spatial dimension or system of measurement. But okay, now for instance, 36 and 72. Now, if I add 72 plus 36, I get 108. If I add 144 plus 72, I get 216. So there's this. Now, if you were to follow that same rule, just how they sort of add up together as well. There's some. I did a video a while back on binomial theorem and different sort of way of looking at it. I think there's some very important. Not just first, second, and third, but fourth dimensional is one of the important keys. Anyway, 72, we went through the same theme. 9 times 2 is 18, times 2 is 36, times 2 is 72. This, again, so many cultures. Now we'll have a look at the number 144, and on this particular column, probably the main one. At least the 144 is pretty cool, pretty important number. Now, to begin with, we have astronomy, and so this, both the sun and the moon, sun, earth and moon, key forms. Now, even 1440 minutes per day, so 14, that's on the earth, so you could moon, earth, minutes per day, and sun, but sun and moon as the diameters. And it's also on this long foot, or the Persian foot, is also called. So one long foot is 1.056 of our feet. Divide that by 2, you get 0.528. Divide it 0.264, 0.132, 0.66, 0.33. So it's essentially the basic, or one of the key conversions to this would be 33. And so this is why other videos as well talked about 33 feet, 66 feet. How both ancient and modern just appears again. But we have astronomy as one of the 4 of the quadrivium, and also a measurement of time as well. So, but also more than that. So again, the Persian foot. Now, when I finish this, I want to go through and show how important the Persian foot is in this scale, and to converting to other ancient units, Doric, Ionic, the Mohenjo-Daro foot, and also connections to the cubit through the meter, and some other aspects. But so again, we have astronomy, we have time, and that would also connect with the earth, but also weight. So the ancient Roman weight scales, again, which we've seen throughout the earlier numbers, appears again. It carries through to this period. So wait, but even screen resolution, so 1440p, and here in Australia, the way that they've set up the AM as well as the FM frequencies, all on this harmonic system. That's not an international thing. There are some, but Australia, very, very hermetic. Now, even so, the nonagon, you see like 40 degrees, the center angle, and well, in other, or the vesica, so the outside angle of that rhombus, 240, that's 14,400 minutes on the compass. The hexagon, again, so 240, the outside, that emerges from the vesica. But in terms of geometry, it's got, well, more than this as well. So we see a geometric connection, but also in, say, the Fibonacci spiral. 144 is a Fibonacci number, so 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89. 144 is the 12th Fibonacci number, and it's also 12 squared. So that's the interesting thing about these numbers, is how they all appear. Well, they have these cross references. You bring it, so much comes in and forms the focal point. So often you'll be said that 864 is a sun number. I would say, no, 864 is a conversion number, just like 144, 108, 216. It encompasses several pieces of knowledge and not just one aspect of it. But okay, even on the Euler's conjecture, it's interesting that in the fifth dimension, 144, this was one of the shortest math papers ever written as well. But again, just, you don't need to be fancy on this type of aspect. You just sort of prove anyway. But 144, 3 to the first plus 4 to the second plus 5 to the third. So 1440, exactly the same, plus 6 to the fourth. So we just add the fourth dimension. We continue the pattern and we get 1440. I mentioned the binomial theorem, 4D matrix. Well, this is one of the important aspects. This will appear in that, but that's another earlier video. But geometry and the Fibonacci numbers, but also connections to arithmetic as well. So we have geometry and arithmetic. We've had astronomy, measurements of time, length, and these other aspects. So again, crossing other points. But okay, we also have the 5 Platonic solids, and so if you add up the faces of each one, you get the number of the degrees, and well, we'll see that one in a moment. But if you add them all together, 14,400, 144 once again, and geometry. But also, well, the octahedron as well. So this is the octahedron here, has 8 sides, 8 equilateral triangles, 8 times 180 gives us 1440. And again, this geometric reference as well. But in, for instance, the story of the flood from the Epic of Gilgamesh, when he describes the ark that was built, you could say, now whether it was a round boat as they built at the time, but the dimensions are clearly given. Now, it might have been a round boat, might not have been a cube. Again, we're talking, ancient legends and stories here, so we have to have a little bit of, I think there's some truth, well, there is truth to it, I have no doubt of that, but when stories get passed on through time, little details can change. But anyway, this pattern, the area of each wall for 14,400 cubits squared, and even the total edge length, 1440 cubits. Now, also in New Jerusalem, this very important part from Revelations. Now, in the earlier books of the Bible, there are also lots of connections, but the height of a wall was 144 cubits, that's 216 feet. And because of being 12,000 by 12,000 by 12,000, it's going to have the same aspects here, just with, more or less zeros, because that's 120, and New Jerusalem 12,000. But again, the same patterns, but 144 will also appear elsewhere, like for instance the 144,000, so 12 tribes, 12,000 each tribe, 144,000. You'll see other references to it, very important number. But in, so for instance, the Mayan calendar, one Bakdun, 144,000 days, the Satya Yuga, 144,000 years, the entry point. Then we have the middle piece, and then the exit part of that, 144. And even so 144 is 12 squared, 1728 is 12 cubed. So there's another thing worth considering. But these are references to time, and we have both in the early Hindu, Indian stories, but also the Mayan, and again it's crossing cultures. Rosicrucians, 144 octaves and 144 elements. And now I could have done this with each of these numbers, but I'll show 144 as an example because in architecture. Now, for instance, here we have St Andrew's Cathedral here in Sydney. Now there are other references to 144, but at 14 feet, that's 144 Cremona inch. And the length and the height of it as well will also incorporate 144. Why that's important is, well, great series building the great cathedrals. I know they're special, but they were talking about Amiens Cathedral and Beauvais. Now, Amiens, the height of the interior is 144 Roman feet, and the Beauvais Cathedral, the height is 144 royal feet. I'm calling that medieval royal foot, so it's not confused with others later. But this is an essential element in cathedral church design. Now they're both 144 feet in this case, but they've used a different system of measure. So this 144 Roman feet is slightly less than this. So these are not the same height, but they incorporate the same information, and this is one of the themes that they use. Once you understand what is the basic unit of measure that they're using in one of these cathedrals or ancient temples, all of this will emerge consistently, almost without exception. I really, offhand, I can't think of. You look at a major temple, you look at it, and you'll find it, and it's just repeated, measurable, testable. Parma Cathedral, it's one of these great cathedrals, 13th century, again 144 feet high. Now, this foot, 144 feet, as the 12-inch foot that we know, well, this predates that coming into existence. However, you'll find the foot appearing so often. Again, another story, but even in more modern of a basilica of is it Lichen? I'm not sure, pardon my pronunciation. In Poland, the nave 144 feet. Now, even the yet nearly completed basilica of the Sacred Family, Sagrada Familia in Spain, 560 feet the total, which will be 1440 Cremona hands on the scale when completed. It's also interesting to note that the groundbreaking and the completion schedule is 144 years, and it was consecrated on the 7th day of the 11th month, which happens a lot. But what is important, I think, is, so it's not just about measurement of length, but also measurements of time, for instance. And now I could put, okay, so 144 years the completion date. I should reference it, but the way when people think about all the people who are into city design, architecture, even in their own literature, the way they talk about these, it's also playing. What I'm trying to say is they play a long game at this. The guy who designed this and started construction knew full well he would never see it completed. That's the way it works with these big building projects. They're very rarely, if ever, completed within a lifetime. So as the saying goes, the old man who plants a tree knowing he'll never sit in its shade. This is one of the ways that they're thinking about this and working towards these things. Now I'll pause a moment. Okay, so Brasilia Cathedral by Oscar Niemeyer. He was the most important architect in regards to Brasilia, which is the South American version of Washington, D.C. He also designed the UN building, again, just full hermetic systems in there. But even so, these 16 columns, 90 tons each, so 1440 tons. So it's time, it's length, it's geometry, it's all these other aspects. It's not just one part. And where were we? Okay, so here we see. So with all these other numbers, okay, so 144 in measurement, but time, but also weight, how often it appears. Now, the next number will be 288, but on screen capture only gives me 15 minutes. Okay, so that'll be up in the next video. I'll follow on and just complete this little part of the series. Anyway, with that, hope you enjoyed. There'll be some more pieces to come. Cheers.